This is the second and final video dealing with the presidency of John Adams. Now, we previously have looked at the two main issues of the Adams presidency, both dealing with France. The foreign issue was the XYZ affair. The domestic issue was the Alien and Sedition Acts, a series of 4 laws designed to deal with treason. And they definitely seem to be anti-Republican in their writing and their tone. So that's where we get a counter to this. We have this notion of fighting tyranny. Republicans believe that the president and the Federalists have simply gone too far. So we have 2 methods that are taken to try and fight this alleged tyranny. Now, once the Sedition Acts were passed, Thomas Jefferson, the Vice President of the United States, and it's worth noting that he is Vice President, he hastily goes back home to Monticello. He goes home where he spends the next 6 months writing to political allies and writing a set of resolutions that was going to be introduced into the Kentucky legislature. That's why we call them the Kentucky resolutions. So when we look at the Kentucky resolutions, moving forward, nullification is the big idea. So the concept here is that each state had what Jefferson referred to as a natural right to nullify federal actions that they viewed as unconstitutional. So we can nullify it, refuse to follow unconstitutional federal laws. And it really embodies this notion of states' rights. It's very interesting when you read this, and keep in mind that his direct boss is John Adams, a Federalist who was in favor of these laws. The man underneath President Adams, Vice President Jefferson, is directly stating, even though this was written anonymously, his words are that you don't have to follow these laws as a state if they're unconstitutional. So we have this argument of nullification. At the same time that Jefferson is writing the Kentucky resolutions, James Madison was writing something similar for the Virginia legislature. That's why we call them the Virginia resolutions. And remember, both of these were written anonymously, written and published anonymously. Now, the difference here is Madison takes on this notion of what's called interposition. Nullification means the law apparently still stands, we're just not going to follow it. Interposition means states can actually step in and stop something illegal. If the federal government passes a law, undertakes an action seen to be illegal, states can stop it. That's the difference between the two. Both of these are going to provide a template for decades to come. And we can even see this today. A template for going against or defying federal actions viewed as unconstitutional. Now, with Thomas Jefferson, his support of the cause of nullification is one of the reasons why his time as president was kind of minimized during and in the decades following the Civil War, because his ideas laid the groundwork for the arguments that favored that conflict. So that's kind of another interesting contextualization argument. How we view a president depends on the time we're living. During the Civil War, after the Civil War, not so much love for Jefferson because he pushed this states' rights idea, this concept of nullification. And these are a direct response to the Sedition Acts. The Alien Sedition Acts overall, but mostly the Sedition Act, which was seen as violating the First Amendment. Now, ultimately, Adams is going to be a one-term president. He's not going to win this one. And this election proves to be the last time in American history in which the sitting president will run against his own vice president. And this is one of the first early examples of a dirty election. Federalists, people who support Adams, are going to claim that Jefferson was a coward when he served as Virginia governor during the Revolution. They're also going to claim he was an atheist, which was a big no-no at that time. Republicans on the flip side are going to view Adams as a monarchist who favors Britain. He's old. He's insane. Hamilton even actively worked behind the scenes. Alexander Hamilton is out of government at this point. He does not hold any office, but he still has Federalist friends, and he works behind the scenes to dissuade Federalists from voting for Adams. And he even wrote a pamphlet that defamed his character. Now, in the end, Adams will receive 65 electoral votes. Thomas Jefferson will get 73, but so will Aaron Burr. And this is the first of many times throughout the first half of the 1800s that historians will point to the overrepresentation of Southern states due to the 3/5 compromise. Because remember, out of every 5 slaves, there are 3 people, so to speak. The 3/5 compromise allowed counting every 5 slaves as 3 people for population purposes. This means that the South will invariably get more representatives because of this. And this will be seen as a deciding factor. Without those extra votes, Adams is reelected. Now, this is a tie. We can see it's a tie between Jefferson and Burr, both Republican candidates. Just like 4 years before, Burr pretty much was a vice presidential candidate. Everyone understood this. But this time, he refused to step aside. He refused to step aside in favor of Jefferson, essentially stating, hey, let the House figure it out. Because constitutionally, if there is no electoral majority, the House will convene and pick the president. And Hamilton does have sway because remember, he has Federalist friends. Federalists control the House of Representatives. Hamilton and Jefferson don't really care for each other. They have vastly different views of how the country should be run. They have different visions for America. But when asked his opinion in a letter, he stated, in the choice of evils, let them take the least. Them being the Federalists in Congress, let them take the least. Jefferson is, in my view, less dangerous than Burr. Less dangerous than Burr. To his end, Adams actually said nothing. He said nothing of who the House should pick because he believed that it was a matter for Congress to resolve, not the executive branch. Now, he did leave town the morning of the inauguration. He didn't stick around for Jefferson to be inaugurated because he wanted to get to Baltimore in one day, which was on his way back home. So he had to take the early stagecoach at 4 in the morning. He really wanted to go quickly. But what's so remarkable about this election is we've had 3 terms of one ideology. We've essentially had 3 terms of Federalist presidents. Now, all of a sudden, we have a different ideology leading the country. We have a Republican. Traditionally, history tells us that if you want to go from one idea to another, if you want a new leader who has completely different ideas, there needs to be violence that occurs to get that change. But that didn't happen. An election was held. There were issues with the results. The House of Representatives resolved those issues. Adams left. Jefferson was sworn in. That was that. Now, this election is obviously viewed as a turning point because Jefferson will take a different course than his predecessors, Washington and Adams. But it also was a signal to the world that when it came to this American experiment, that nobody was sure if it would work or how it would go, when it came to this new nation, a peaceful transfer of power could indeed occur.